Well, good afternoon, folks. Hopefully, everyone that posted questions to the Q&A session today have logged on. Today we're going to answer some of those questions that were posted on the comment section of that post from back in late February. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and get started. So the first question that had the most votes was, how do you prevent and treat hot spots in livestock guardian dogs? Shave versus no shave, topical treatment, when do you go to oral treatments? So first I would say that the best thing is to try to prevent the hot spots in the first place from occurring. You can do that by keeping areas, especially around the dog's collars, trimmed lightly, so there's not a lot of long hair. Keep them groomed, keep that area clean, and make sure that the collar isn't too tight. A lot of times our dogs, they wear a very large collar for the GPS trackers that we use. And a lot of times our dogs will get a hot spot underneath, especially after rain and we get some humidity here. And so, if you have a smaller livestock operation, I would recommend, that you kennel or pen the dog up for a few days. Definitely trim the hair up as short as possible where the hot spot is. Clean the area with some sort of an antiseptic. Make sure you get it nice and clean. You wipe it down so that there's no excess skin that's rotting away, and that the area is definitely clean. Then the best thing to do, what we use is a product called Vetricin. They have a specific one for hot spots that you can purchase, and spray that on the dog at least daily. And if the hot spot isn't in an area like around their neck, if it's on one of their legs or inside by their belly, you can put one of those plastic cones around them to keep them from licking the area and keeping it infected. If they're not getting better in 3 to 4 days, or if the hot spots are getting larger, I would definitely take them to a vet, and they can get you some oral medication to give the dog, and they'll most likely prescribe the same treatment that I just discussed, because that's what our vet recommended for our dogs. The next question that came up was they needed recommendations for livestock guardian dogs' first kidding season. They have a single dog. All their does are expecting kids, and they wanted to know, should they keep the dog penned or keep the does and the kids penned? How long to wait before introducing the dog and the kids, because they're not there all the time to be able to watch the dog, and wanted to know if there was some sort of an introductory period. So, basically, dogs should be with their livestock at all times. And, if you're concerned about some rough play happening with the dog, since it's their first kidding season, set out some game cameras. You can get the ones now that have a live feed to them, that you can observe the dog all the time in the pen or in the pasture area. And, definitely, if you have some new kids, the first ones that are born, you can put the dog on a leash, take them out to where those kids are at, let the dog sniff them, let the nanny sniff the dog, everybody kind of get to know each other. And I would do this several times with each new kid that kind of comes around. If you don't see any issues with the dog, either via the game camera or just whatever your observations are, then I would just leave the dog there. That the question didn't say how old this dog was, so I'm assuming it's probably maybe about a yearling. And so you do get some rough play that kind of happens in those teenage months, from about 8 to about 18 months of age in livestock guardian dogs a lot of times. Dangle sticks work fairly well. If you have an open pasture, a drag of some sort, if your dogs are playing rough with your animals, can also work. And last thing that I would also recommend, or two things actually, you can also try a shock collar, if you're going to be around a lot. Those work very well. And you can also put the dog in a pen with some billies or with some rams if you have sheep. And they will definitely teach your livestock guardian dog to be submissive. They generally won't put up with any type of rough play behavior from your yearling or even younger dog. The next question that came up was when bringing home an 8-week-old livestock guardian dog that comes from a farm where she was raised with goats, cats, other livestock guardian dogs. Should they build a pen inside the barn where she'll be housing her pregnant nannies, or should the dog be outside in a separate pen with some non-pregnant stock and her billies? And then she also wanted to know if the dog should have a pen with food and a safe place for it, inside or outside the barn. Where should she house the dog when she's not there? So a lot of different things in that question, but I like our pups to be in contact with livestock as soon as possible. So we get pups that are 8 weeks old. They go directly into a bonding pen that's outside. They do have shelter, and they also have a safe place. It is important that your puppies have a safe place. What we try to do is keep the feed inside the safe place for them, and then which are generally our feeding stations that we use, and then the water's outside of that. So they have to leave the safe place to be able to go out and get water at some point. So the dog can't just stay in the safe place all the time. So they have to interact with the livestock. Preference over with the pregnant does or kids versus being outside. If it's a brand new puppy, I would put them right in there with those pregnant does and any of the kids that are born. It gets them used to those young animals at an early age. Hopefully those nannies, if the dogs are playing with the kids at all, will help teach those pups to be submissive to them. And so I would definitely say, again, put them in there right from the get-go. I don't like taking dogs away from livestock unless we absolutely have to. Some of our older dogs, from time to time, when they're roaming or if they're injured, we have to kennel them. But we do get them back to livestock as soon as possible. So kind of going down the list with some other questions. Socializing a puppy with children. Does the 5 minutes 3 times a week that we do stay true with that? Basically what I would say is if you have young children and you're socializing a young dog, just include them in the process. The dogs should know everybody that's on your property, and they should accept them, if they come out to feed the dogs, or if they have to catch the dogs to bring them in for some reason or take them somewhere. And so if you have children, have them do some of the same things that you would do as far as the direct socialization. So have the children pick the dog's feet up and check them, look in their mouth, check their ears, brush the dogs if they're a long-haired dog. Have them take the puppy for a walk on a leash. All those kind of things can be incorporated, with your supervision and the children there working with the dog just as much as you do. I would, say to try to stay with that 5 minutes 3 times a week. That number seems to work fairly well for us. Our dogs are not overly socialized, but with that regiment, we can still catch the dogs, as adults when they're out in the field. So the next question was how and when to feed a livestock guardian dog, one that's protecting goats, cattle, and chickens. So the biggest thing is, if you can hand feed your dog on a daily basis, that is the best thing to do. It helps keep them socialized. You can handle them, and it really works out well. But that system doesn't work for everybody, especially large producers. And so, feeding stations work really well. The design that we have, and you can go on our previous Facebook posts and our YouTube channel and see what we use, but I prefer dogs to have a jump gate that they have to jump through instead of digging under. I think, feeding stations where they have to dig under to get in, eventually the hole just gets so big that, especially if you have goats, they end up crawling under and they get into the feeding station. And I think it helps encourage them too to, if they want to get out of pasture, that they dig out. And so I like to see them jump into a feeding station. And there's a variety of designs that are out there on the internet, or like I said, you can look at the gate that we use. But that's what I would recommend as far as feeding a livestock guardian dog. Definitely have a feeding station for them. Some tips on keeping them cool during extremely hot summers. So there's a lot of pros and cons to this, but some trimming, and I'm not, when I say trim their hair, I'm not talking about shearing them completely down, like with surgical clippers or something like that. But a lot of times our longer haired dogs get a bunch of burrs in their hair and mats and things like that because they're out on large ranches. And so we generally trim the dogs from their chests, through their belly, their inner legs, and that's it. Now, obviously, there's still some hair left. Again, we're not trimming them down, slicking them down using surgical clippers or anything like that. But you can get all those mats and those kind of things off of them, and trim up some of that hair where they're not going to be, that's not going to get sunburned. Never trim their head or their backs or their sides because they definitely can get sunburned. Make sure they have plenty of shade. Plenty of fresh, cool water, and then also, if you have some lower water troughs or even some like plastic kiddie pools that you can put out for them with water in it so that they can lay down and keep cool. All those things work really well for livestock guardian dogs. A couple more questions that were on here, and I'll get to those, even though they didn't have real high like or love counts, but I think we've got some extra time here real quick. Person had a 3-year-old livestock guardian dog. She was treated for Lyme disease, but her behavior's changed. She says she's been caught chasing livestock. And how do we correct that behavior? Introducing her back to kids. So, I would definitely recommend getting a dangle stick on her. And if you have a clear pasture, maybe putting a drag of some sort, whether it's just a chain drag or a chain with a tire, those definitely slow them down for sure. And, again, if you have, several mature rams or billies that you can place the dog in a pen with, they will help correct some of that chasing behavior with the dog also. And again, my last resort usually to most livestock guardian dog bad behaviors is a shock collar of some sort. I generally don't like to use those, until everything else has failed, but they do work really well, and they can, change dog behavior fairly quickly for you. So with that, I think that's all the questions we had from the post. It looks like there's a few in the comments here, and so I'll try to answer some of these while I've got you. Do you ever work with puppies who are getting mentored by an older, proven dog? Any tips for this situation? So yeah, most of the time, the puppies in our bonding project go to either a cooperating producer or to one of our ranches that already have mature dogs. And so I do think it's helpful to pair up an 8 or 10-month-old pup with an older dog that's already definitely proven, a dog that's say 4 years old or older. I think they can pick up a lot of tips, especially with, alerting to predators and what to do if, there is a predator. Some of that stuff is innate, that they're going to bark and things like that. But other behaviors, I think that dogs or younger dogs can learn from older dogs is, if the older dog chases off flying predators, for instance. That's a question I get a lot. We really haven't figured out a way to train dogs for that. But, if you have an older dog that is already doing that, pairing a younger pup up with them, I think would be very helpful. And I think that younger pup would probably learn that behavior from the older dog. Next question on the comments here for today. and this is probably the last one if nobody else has any more. It says, we tried using a jump gate with our livestock guarding dogs, and one of them injured her hip jumping through the jump gate, and she has a limp from hip dysplasia since then. We're giving her oil glucosamine supplements now. Yeah, it is important. You don't want the entrance so high, or so small, for instance, that they're going to get hurt. The jump gate that we use, the entrance is just over, I think it's about 26 or 27 inches high. It's basically like a 5-panel gate. So there's 5 crossbars and 4 openings. It's kind of difficult to find that gate. You usually have to special order it from your feed stores or your Tractor Supply, but they are available. And we like that gate because the openings are all even. And so we start out the dogs on the very bottom opening, and then we slowly close them off as the dog grows, and we eventually leave that third section open for them to jump through. And I can tell you that, I literally looked at probably 100,000 game camera pictures or more when we first put the feeding stations out and that jump gate on the stations. And we did not have a single sheep or goat get into any of those feeding stations. And that's on about 5,000 acres. And there's, I believe, 10 different feeding stations there with those same jump gates on them. So that design worked really well for us. And that's what I would recommend. Again, your dog doesn't have to jump up really high to get through that. It's kind of just a small hop for them. So one more question here just came up. Is it okay for 13-month-old Great Pyrenees pups to check and sometimes lick the goats? Yes, I would definitely say that shows that the dog is bonded to that livestock. Dogs generally will groom livestock. They'll lick their faces. They'll lick their bodies. They should be laying with them, following the livestock, or a lot of times eventually the livestock will follow the dogs different places. But I would definitely say that behavior is okay. And they'll definitely lick off and clean up any afterbirth, either on a ewe or a nanny or anything that's on a kid. Sometimes with younger dogs, you do have to be careful. If a lamb or a kid is chilled because it's cold out, they may assume that lamb or kid is dead, and they'll pick it up and take off with it and eat it. Those things do happen. They don't purposely do that, but they're cleaning up any of that afterbirth or dead animals to keep other predators and prey and things like that might come and pick those things up and eat it and bring those animals to the area. They're trying to keep that stuff away from your animal. So I definitely wouldn't discourage that. We got another question here. We're going to go just a couple more minutes. People are starting to talk about the no fence collared networks. Do you see that working for livestock guarding dogs, given that there is, or it's got a beep followed by a shock? I do think that system can work. We have a producer that's on the Livestock Guardian Dog Association that we work with. And she has, I think, about 1,800 acres, and she has an invisible fence system on their ranch, and they really, really like it. The main problem with it is that the batteries on the collar only last a couple days. And so if you have a large ranch and if you don't have very well socialized dogs, the system isn't going to work. And so I think I foresee that type of a system working really well for small producers. You don't have to bury a wire in the ground. They do it all by GPS points now. And as a matter of fact, we're going to be trying a system out like that here later on this month to hopefully correct a couple dogs that just graduated from the bonding project that are still roaming. That I've tried a bunch of different things to try to correct their bad behavior, and none of them seem to work yet. So the company seems to think that they can correct that behavior and cure them permanently. So I would say check back with our Facebook page, and I'll definitely keep you posted on how the invisible fence system is working when it gets installed later on this month. Well, I appreciate everybody joining in today. feel free to leave me some comments. If this was something that you would like to see again, please definitely, post some of those comments in our the comment section underneath this video, and we'll get another one scheduled in another month or so if this was something you want to see again. So thank you very much, and have a good day.